Welcome to the Master Dealmaker's Secrets podcast. And now, here's sales growth strategist, John Blake.
Welcome to Master Dealmaker's Secrets. I'm John Blake. This is episode 59, and today I am really psyched because we've got Adam Lewis Walker on the show with us. Adam is the author of the Awaken Your Alpha podcast. He had me on right from the very beginning. It's one of the highest ranked podcasts on the internet today. And we're going to be having a really good chat with him. So I'm particularly pumped about that. But first, before we go any further, if you've got lead flow and you want to convert more of those leads into sales, head over to johnblakeaudio.com and get your free rapid audio training where I show you the precise strategy that you can use to double your sales with your existing leads. So this is the exact same strategy that I teach my high-ticket clients when I first start working with them, and it will deliver you consistent results once you've got it working for you. So head over to johnblakeaudio.com, download the audio training, and you'll get the exact scripts, exactly what to write, exactly what to say when you call people, and an 8-week follow-up template that allows you to be persistent, professional, and proactive without annoying people. So head over there now, and I look forward to hearing your success story from using it. All right, so we have got Adam with us. Adam Lewis Walker. He hosts the top-ranked podcast, Awaken Your Alpha, interviewing the world's elite, over 375. I'm sure it's more by now. Episodes
on 400, yeah.
400, there you go. Since
almost,
2014. Yeah. He founded Talk Accelerator to help people to secure their own TEDx talk, increasing their influence, income, and impact. He speaks on leadership, resilience, and how to utilize mindset and the tactics of the world's top performers to thrive. Ultimately, how to awaken your alpha to accelerate your mission. He speaks on new media to amplify impact through podcasting, publishing, and presenting. And this is really interesting. He's a former teacher and international pole vaulter, which I didn't know. I've known Adam for many years and didn't even know that. In 2008, he was attempting to reach the Olympics when his career was cut short by a freak accident. I'm going to ask him about that in a minute. In the following 2 years, he was on crutches and came to the realization that he would probably never compete again. He hit rock bottom. And he had to rebuild his dreams and his identity, eventually fighting back to represent Great Britain in the Paralympic sport and refocusing to help others achieve regardless of their obstacles. So in 2013, he co-authored the New Rules of Success, sharing his no-nonsense approach to health, family, and leadership. The success of the book led him to create the Awaken Your Alpha movement, I guess you could call it. And Adam's quest to share inspirational stories, strategies, and insights to be the leader in your life. As a coach and mentor, he's worked and has cultivated the mindset needed for excellence and fulfillment. As a keynote speaker, Adam gave a TEDx talk, Awaken Your Alpha, How to Rise Up, and has been featured in the Huffington Post, ESPN, Podfest, National Publicity Summit, Influencers Radio, and many other media outlets. And he's also the proud parent to Dylan and Harrison, his wife, Christina, originally from West Sussex in the south of England, and now is in Michigan, which is...
Yeah, mate, I felt bad for you. That's a long introduction. I didn't want to cut you off, but I'm like, let's just cut that. Let's get into it. I'm like, whenever someone reads the full thing, I'm like, damn, I really should have sent a shorter one, or I don't know. Yeah. So no, you covered a lot there. Yeah.
It's all really interesting stuff. And yeah, I mean, you and I have known each other since when? 2013 or something.
Yep. Around that 13, 14. Yep.
When we caught up in Vegas, and
yeah, God, it goes way back, doesn't it? Yeah.
And I knew you were an athlete, but I didn't know that you'd had, that you'd come back from what sounds like a pretty nasty injury.
That's before I forget. I didn't represent. I didn't make it to the Paralympics. I made it into a Paralympic sport, and I was in the build up to 2012. I didn't make the cut, and I actually quit because, and we can talk about that. It was for someone who just goes for it and will not give up type thing. I had to actually basically be realistic with the fact that Yeah, because I was for the Paralympic team, I was classed as a minimal disability athlete because basically my knee was screwed. Apart from that, there was nothing wrong with me. So
Gotcha.
they have 2 spots on the team for that, and those 2 spots were basically filled by the best standing volleyball player that Britain's ever produced, like the Great Britain captain, played for like 20 years.
Yeah.
And then some monster who's just a beast, like 6'6". And then there's me who's took up volleyball or literally after my pole vault career kind of happened or just stopped from the injury. And
is that how you hurt yourself in like pole vaulting?
Yeah. I made it into the UK Challenge Final 2008. And it was British summertime, so obviously horizontal rain, just rough weather, and pole vault's dangerous enough as it is, but this was just rough conditions, big competition, biggest one I'd ever been in for me, and we were like, the pole vaulters got together and like, it's the top 10 in the UK. Can we move this indoors? Because they had the facilities and they said they would do that, and the officials were just like, "Nah, we're okay, we'll do it." Because it's right in front of the stands outside, so it was just flooded run up, like landing on the mat was like landing in a swimming pool. And then, we're like, someone's going to get injured. And it was me. Long story short. But yeah, I got into that. I was in the top 4 as well because it's like elimination as the bar goes higher. So I really wanted it. And that was, other people might have been thinking about self-preservation or it's not worth it. And I, lost perspective, if I'm honest now, because I hadn't really had a super bad injury. I tore my groin when I was 21 and had that repaired and things like that. But I'd never had any knee problems up until that day, and then slipped on takeoff because, tried to jump on my takeoff foot in a puddle and it just slipped, dislocated my knee, tore the ACL, ripped all the meniscus cartilage off the bones and bruised the bone ends in the impact. And just unfortunately wasn't knocked out because that's what I was. It was painful. Yeah, it was very painful. Nasty. So that was that for the pole vault. Yeah.
Yeah, they would have given you the green whistle pretty early on that one, I would imagine.
It was savage. I just remember there's extended family members who had come to watch me pole vault for the first time, like even though I've been vaulting for, well over a decade. And I just remember it's like that out of body when it actually happened a little bit, in terms of I just couldn't stop. I couldn't shut up. That's the big fault apart from the pain was shut up and I couldn't stop screaming. And because, it was bad.
Yeah. Heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had a couple of nasty accidents and a couple that have been really painful as well. So I'm feeling you.
Yeah. Well, it was like, I didn't want to look down because it felt like someone had literally got my leg and just snapped it the wrong way. And I felt like, having done sports studies and lots of stuff like that I thought it might be an open fracture in terms of like blood and just bones, but it wasn't. It was in one piece, but it was just ruined.
Yeah. Nasty. So obviously, I guess so what did you learn? Obviously there was a big process to come back from that.
Yeah.
And probably a number of years of rehab and getting yourself, to a point where you were fit again, where you were confident with your own body. What were some of the main things that you learned from that?
Well, off the bat, I was very positive off the bat, and I tried to look at it as like straight away, like how quickly can I get back from this? And like the surgeons were sort of telling me, don't think about getting back from this. Think about more like being able to play, basic sports with your kids when they're older. And I'm bearing in mind I didn't have any kids at that time. I was like, oh, you're still as an athlete, you're still thinking, how quick can I get back? Can I, get next season, all this sort of stuff. And they were like, no, you need to so I had to, reassess things is the reality. And it took about a year to really I was in denial for a long time and being positive and stuff, but slowly getting chipped away. And then it was multiple operations. So it was prehab, operation, rehab, then another operation because it didn't go so well. And so about a year, I really couldn't deny it anymore. It sort of hit rock bottom. And reality, looking back now, as long as it took me to go all the way down to rock bottom and properly depressed, basically, it took the similar sort of time to get out of it. Yep. So it wasn't like a quick rebound. It was very slow. Just, looking at it this way, I never thought about it this way. I feel like I learned about literally just getting that little bit better every day. Yeah. And just you may be in a load of crap now, But if you're just that 1% better than yesterday, that's the right direction. And once I started coming out, that was enough for me. So I wasn't looking for, these big jumps of feeling awesome today. I was just looking to keep moving forward in the right direction. And that's kind of the whole thing behind the Awaken Your Alpha stuff. And I know I featured you in the book as well. And it's kind of the adversity you've gone through. But I feel like a lot of people, as I did, you would do almost anything, or you would do the fundamentals to get yourself out of these really crappy situations and get back to what society considers normal. And a lot of people then stop, or they stop doing the habits that got them out of there, and they kind of go back down to not doing so well, struggling. They come back out, and then it's like continual, and that momentum, and just continuing to do the fundamentals that got you to a decent point, to keep doing that. And that's where you kind of go on to thrive and actually do something, of note and achieve some things.
Yeah. And it's interesting also from a personal management perspective, but also, when you're coaching people, and it's like, don't reward perfection, reward progress. It's like if you're a little bit better than what you were last time, then celebrate that, because that's a step forward, even if it's just a small step.
Yeah,
so,
and that's, from an athletics background as well, that side's always been there, because as athletes at the high end, you're comparing yourself to people a little bit, but not really. Even in like pole vault at that high level, everyone there was kind of like, you're all about like personal best, your own personal best, in terms of you could lose a competition, but if you get a personal best that day, you genuinely feel completely satisfied, because that's literally the best you've ever done. And so there's that aspect of, someone could win a competition and they might vault badly and not get very high for them. So they're going to be like, oh, great.
Yeah.
So it's, and that athletics is always about like your personal best, and that side of things does come into it a huge amount. And it's the same for life. It's all about, your own personal best, and, what I do may be like the best I've ever done, but for you, that may be crap, and vice versa. Like it's important to just not compare yourself to others. And so moving away from sports, as I don't do anything particularly, crazy and competitive now. That's how I look at everything. I really, even in the podcasting game, I definitely compared myself to others in the early days. And that's definitely a route to, frustrations of being unfulfilled and never satisfied if you do that. And so, it's important to kind of stay in your lane and just be confident and aware in what is important to you and what's not, and not compare yourself to other people's, highlight reels.
Yeah, I think that's such a great philosophy. It's like, just, don't compare yourself to it, because that just doesn't take you anywhere good ever.
Nah.
You know what I mean? Like it's like, and it's almost like the reverse is also true. It's like if you ever find yourself in hospital, there's always someone worse than you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, I mean, that's one of the reasons as well why I think why I really struggled with my knee and basically got very depressed eventually, was because I was so kicking my own ass, because I was aware from the start, it's a knee, the rest of me's okay. Like there's worse things that's happened to people. Yeah. And because I think I was so harsh on myself, like, come on, snap out of it. I didn't like justify that this was the worst thing that had ever happened to me. Yeah, by this normal society standards, no one's died. It's I'm aware a lot of other things has happened to people and will happen to me, probably worse. But at that point in my life, that was the worst thing that ever happened to me. So it did kick my ass. And the result was, the reality, I wasn't as mentally strong as I thought I was, because, it really, pulled the rug from under me. So I like to think, but you never know, because obviously there's always a scenario that will take anyone down, I feel, almost. When the next adversity that's coming, I'll be a little bit more mentally prepared, because I feel like I've been, in training for adversity ever since, really.
Yeah.
That's from interviewing lots of people that, I don't think I've ever interviewed anyone who hasn't had some form of adversity. And again, it's not a competition.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No, but I think that's such a great mantra, because whoever you compare yourself to, it just never ends well. So it's like, if you compare yourself to who you were yesterday, it's such a good mantra. It's like, all I need to be is just better than who I was yesterday. All I need to do is just be better than how I went, the other day. And you can see it in your kids too, like I'm at the moment, I'm teaching my son how to surf, and, each time we go, he gets a few more waves, he stands up for a little bit longer. You know, he's just getting, you know, each time we go, he's just improving every single time. So, you know, it's pretty cool. He's not comparing himself to Kelly Slater.
I've surfed properly. Oh, I say the word properly like once, and it was in Australia as well.
Yeah, right.
But,
Cool.
Yeah, it was baptism of fire though. It was like one. I was staying at. When I went traveling for a year after I got married.
Where were you?
Where was we? Near where sort of Steve Irwin's kind of neck of the woods. I think over that way. Where's that? Steve.
Oh, that's the Sunshine Coast. Sunshine Coast.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah.
Like Coolum.
My cousin,
probably Coolum, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I know. We
Maroochydore, Alexander Headland.
Oh, I can't remember, but we were. And the reason I really don't know exactly where I actually surfed because we were staying at this like hostel or something like that because we were like backpacking. We honeymooned for a year. That's another story, but we quit our jobs and went. Yeah, and so I was staying at this hostel, and a lot of people staying at hostels are like sleep-in type people. Let's be honest. And so some guy, I think he worked there, was like he put up on the board surfing in the morning, first thing like 5 a.m. or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Let me know if you want to come. So I was like, I'm up for it. But he was a proper surfer.
Yeah,
so
right.
he wasn't like going to train someone or like lesson one. He was like, he had proper surfboards and he was like, well, I'm going surfing. And I was like, well, I've not really done it. And he was like, well, he said, it's easier on the bigger waves. Just, he was like, it was like the little ones, they kind of turn and teach you. He said, nah, when you're going fast, easier on the bigger waves. So I gave me a surfboard that didn't have a leash as well. So basically, I was out there for the whole time.
The surf guide from hell.
Yeah. So I went out there, and I'm in the same like distance. We're way out, and then I'm just like paddling, jump on the board. Basically, as soon as I think I got up twice, and obviously when I fell or whatever, because I didn't have a leash, the board goes in like half an hour, so I have to go get it, then come back out. So it was a good workout, but I think I caught I had like 3 or 4 waves. And he was like, yeah, I'm done. But it took me ages. But it was fun. I loved it. But it was, it was definitely dropped in at the deep end.
Yeah, that's a radical way to learn how to surf. That's crazy. So switching gears, mate. The you know, all the interviews and stuff that you've done, nudging 400 or thereabouts.
Yeah.
What would you say the 3 biggest commonalities of the successful people that you've spoken to, that, you know, the alpha people that you've spoken to, however you want to put it, you know, there must be a pattern there. You do something often enough, a pattern will appear.
Yeah.
You know, what would you say the 3 biggest commonalities?
Yeah. The first one that jumps to mind is, you know, failure and the amount of failure and their approach to failure. I guarantee the amount of failure of all the people I've interviewed and all the people I would consider, and a lot of people would, successful in their fields and you know, and overall in life in terms of, you know, not massively dropping the ball in one area of their life long term, they have a lot more failure than the average person.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, you know, I feel like they take it on the chin a lot better. Obviously, it comes from dealing with adversity as well. But they don't take failure too personally. I think they've got their heads around the fact that if they're pushing the envelope and they're trying lots of things, it's completely natural. And once you look at it, like step away from it, it's obvious you're going to fail more. You know, and they always generally say, you know, you only need to hit 1 home run. And it seems to be that way. You know, they will have absolutely just keep swinging away and they have these failures, but they're understand. I suppose we're talking about deal makers as well. You need that attitude towards sales as well in a certain way that, you know, it's not for everyone and that's fine. And it's about, you know, just putting your best foot forward and just, you know, not dwelling on failures and just getting through them, as it were. Not to just get them out of the way, but, you know, obviously you try your best, but, you know, just moving on and just learning from each one. So that, again, that's the thing. They really phrase it as, you know, data and learning experiences. They very rarely call it failures. So yeah, they definitely have more failures. They have more success, but they have more, in proportionally, I'd say they have huge amount of failure compared to the average man or woman. Yeah. So I think that, and I get it, because if you've had less failures, each failure is more painful, I feel, because you haven't had so many. So it's like a big deal. But if you've got some momentum and you're cracking on, then the failure is going to come a little bit quicker because you're doing more stuff. But then you dwell on it less. You keep moving forwards. And that's something, you know, I try and do as well. You know, I think, earlier you'd think about things too much. It's good to think and strategize and plan, but plan and act. And a lot of times you know, that's the second thing I get if we're looking to sort of three things, you know, that they step into action very quickly. Implementation, speed of implementation. And I try to model that as well. If I've got an idea, you know, that domain name is bought this evening, and that's that, even if that's my first action, because then there's a little bit of commitment. Actually, is it even an idea to even think about tomorrow? Because if I'm not willing to spend like $10 on a domain name, then it's probably not an idea worth, you know, revisiting tomorrow. So it's little things like that. Just instead of planning that, you know, basically imperfect in action, I should say. Just, you know, step into that imperfect action. And that's, speed of implementation and moving forwards. And that's obviously tied to the failure thing. So it was kind of 2.5, maybe 3 in there.
Mate, that's awesome. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
In fact, those two are just, that's massive. I think that can, you know, I think anyone can learn a truckload just from those two things, you know, take more swings. You know, I often talk about, you know, Babe Ruth and Jordan and, you know, those guys.
Oh, yeah.
Those guys missed a lot more shots than they got.
Well, the thing is about Jordan, I was telling my sons this the other day, because again, I didn't want them, I'm very aware, I had a very warped, and this is, I suppose, you can have this in all realms of life, very warped opinion of Jordan, as in like, I'd put him too much on a pedestal, because growing up in England, I was a basketball nut. So I only watched basketball highlights. I never watched really any live games. It was always highlights. We had like was it like jam session? They just showed all the game highlights. Mm-hmm. So basically the game highlights was just showing Jordan on loop, scoring, or everyone scoring. They never showed any misses, very rarely. So the problem was I'm a kid. I didn't really think about this. So I felt like they never missed.
Yeah.
So what is that? When I miss a shot, I'm thinking, oh God, I'm a bit useless. And then it's only now I watch a lot of games and I'm watching pros now and I'm thinking, I could do better than that. Like that, and even like the average, you know, they score what? They score like 30, 40% in NBA games and stuff. And I'm like, wow, I could handle that, you know, 4 out of 10. Like that's different. When I was growing up, I almost had the warped impression that people like Jordan scored 90%. Meaning I was so far off and I didn't picture myself at that level. Yeah. Because, you know, so, I mean, and that's important because again, I noticed, you know, my boys don't watch a lot of basketball, but if they do catch it, they're always watching highlights. So they always just see these ridiculously legendary plays and shots. And so I'm trying to explain like, hey, you know, the top professional basketball players literally make 4 out of 10 shots. And they're like, what? I'm like, I know. I wish I'd done this when I was younger, but I think it's, and you got all them famous quotes about, you know, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And when they miss, linked to what we're saying about failure, that has zero effect on how many shots Jordan takes.
No.
Absolutely cracks on. You know,
I love that.
If he missed all his shots in his game and the game-winning shots coming up, it did not affect him. He just you know, takes everyone and, you know, being very present. That's another thing. Presence. Got to be present.
Yeah, so true. I always, it always reminds me also of famous cricketer from WA, a guy called Dennis Lilly. Don't know if you've ever heard of him. Amazing fast bowler, like incredible. And they interviewed him once and they said, oh, you know, so I think he's got like his rate was like he would take a wicket every 18 deliveries or something. 18, and that's considered like a really, really good. That might be inaccurate, but but you know, it was considered really, really good. Yeah. And they interviewed him and they said, you know, so if you ever get up around that sort of, you know, 18 or 19 delivery mark and you haven't taken a wicket yet, you know, do you get nervous? And you know what his answer was? He said, no, I get excited. And they went, why? And they go,
it's coming.
He goes, because I know one's coming.
I love that.
You know what I mean? So what an incredible pre-frame. You know, do you get nervous that you're not going to take a wicket? No, I get excited because I know I'm just about to.
Yeah. Oh, I loved it. I think when someone phrased, we were talking before that, you know, in the last, you know, 4 or 5 years, I've probably done 500 coaching stroke sales calls, stroke meetings, or whatever you want to phrase them in different variations. Yep. And you know, if you phrase it like that, I love stats. So I knew ratios and across like, you know, years and numbers. And so same sort of thing. I knew one's coming as it were. And it wasn't it was just a question of showing up, being present, doing your thing and not taking it personally, you know, and it's there's times when if I'm speaking to someone, you couldn't pay me to make an offer to them. I either don't want to work with them, or I just think even if I wanted, I'm thinking there's zero chance. Like, you get obviously, and you only get that from experience, from reps, but same sort of thing. That I would get excited because I'd know in that sense, if say like 18 bowls or whatever, it's not that many. I had better ratios than that, but that one's coming, and that would excite me as well. I wouldn't feel pressure from that. I just think, here we go, and time and time again, when you have faith in yourself and stats tell, and so I would like and we've talked about it before, sometimes you get it wrong. There's always that like anomaly or whatever, both ways, where you think this is a waste of my time. What's going on here? And then next thing you know, boom, they've signed up and they're a new client. You're like, what? I didn't see that coming. And then the other way around, you're like, oh, I've got this new client. Are they in yet? Well, not yet, but it's 100%, like it's like 99%. And then who knows? They move country or something.
They disappear.
Yeah, that's totally so weird.
Crazy. Cool. So look, the name of the podcast is Master Dealmaker Secrets. So I always ask two questions. First one is, what's the biggest deal that you've won? What biggest deal that you got across the line? Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, well, they're all kind of, I think it's a decent mark, but it's around the $24,000 US dollars.
Yep.
And I've done it a few times. Kind of, because I know it is around that, because that's the most I've ever attempted to sell, as it were, in one lump. So I'm trying to think. Yeah, and I suppose
was it a coaching client or?
Yeah. So year long, whole big process, kind of like done for you. It's a whole big service, and I suppose. Yeah, sometimes I suppose the interesting thing is talking about the reps and stuff.
Yeah. Sometimes,
and I suppose when you're working at that sort of level, it may be smoother than you would expect. Like sometimes I feel like that as well. I feel like there's almost no correlation between the amount being sold and the potential, how much of, I suppose, work or how much effort you're going to put in. And the same thing. So you could be selling something for like,
it's almost like you're getting paid for all the ones that you didn't get.
I feel like it all wraps up, and that's why I don't take it personally on different stuff, because I feel like, hey, if that one took me 20 minutes and it's like for a crazy amount, well, that's like, hey, don't get ahead of yourself there. Remember all them other ones where well, I don't know. I wouldn't be on the phone for someone for $50, but you know what I'm saying? Like you could work for like 2 hours trying to convince someone for $50, and then like that 20 something grand could be like an hour or something like that.
Yeah, done. So, let's do it.
And I think actually one or twice around that price point, there was I might have at points I probably not dragged it out, but the persons, I'm sure I've had one or two where like, yeah, I'm good. Let's crack on. To a certain point, like they're convinced, and sometimes it almost catches you off guard that like, oh, okay, and you don't need to then you can start moving onto the like what's happening next type phase. So no, I'm just trying to. I can't really think of a.
No, I think that works. Yeah. Often there's an irony in that. It's like the biggest ones can sometimes be the easiest ones.
Yeah. And it comes out, my best clients, I think the signs are there early. That's another thing I've learned from, if someone's a bit of a nightmare in that initial conversation around that whole thing, even if in theory you could, or you do get them across the line, do you want to? I mean, if there's a reality,
the way that it begins is the way that it ends.
I'm so cautious. Well, not cautious, but I just wouldn't make the offer, or I'm just like, before you think, if it doesn't come in, maybe I've dodged a bullet. Yeah. Now I really don't leave it up to chance. No. I wouldn't make that offer. I'm like, nah, just leave it. Or I might, I might be like, actually, no, not that. How about I don't do that discount today, because I'm thinking it's going to be worth that extra money by the sounds of it if you come in on this, because
that's what's called dickhead tax.
But that's the thing, man. So many of these conversations. I mean, I want to talk about one of my most funniest scenarios where someone did come in, but this was in a scenario where I wasn't involved in fulfillment. So it's a slightly different game. But even then, I got to a point where I'm like, I'm starting to save the person down the line some trouble. And like even though I'll get my, as it were, my commission, I'm thinking, this is going to end up in a refund down the line. I can smell it. It's just, it's a nightmare. But and the other good thing is the reason I'm, tightened up on that is because I'm how I work now. I'm in, it's my own 100% all my own stuff now.
Yep.
So yeah, I know I'm going to be the one dealing with this person down the line. So yeah. So that's why for anything that's not 100% automated, I'm doing a phone call, even if it's short, near the start, because it's the one wrong client, and it doesn't mean they're a wrong person. They're just the wrong fit for you, and vice versa. Is not worth all the money in the world because it would just cause you a nightmare. They won't be happy. You won't be happy, and it's just it's not good.
Yeah, I agree. Cool. So, biggest one that you lost. What did you learn?
It's never in till it's in.
Yep.
And this, I mean, we just talked about like scenarios where you could be like, yeah, this one's in, you think this is like, I'll bet my house on this. And so it's kind of linked to, celebrating too early. I've done that before. I mean, in the early days, I didn't understand that simple fact. No matter what they are saying, they are never in until they are in. And for me, in is only when the transaction has happened.
Yep.
Like even if someone's like, I'm 100% in, where is the link? And you sent them a link and they're saying, I'm paying this evening. That's still not in. That's a good chance. It's still a probability, but it's never in because I have, years ago, I've been, pre-celebration or not even celebrating, but I'm just mentally, they're in. So maybe you not take your eye off the ball, but you maybe if you didn't think there was in, you might have sent that extra email or just, I don't know, just been, not that I'm not thorough, but, just going above and beyond at least to make sure there wasn't a wobble from their end. I don't know, but that would be my advice to anyone. Like,
yeah, I agree. You never know when the wizardry is going to kick in.
Yeah. So there's all these things, it could be, and that's the thing. It could be universal. Like they agree, you agree. Someone down the street, if you asked them, would say, you guys are like the perfect fit.
Yep.
They can afford it. You can afford to work with them at this price. It's like everyone's a winner from any angle. They're 100% in. They haven't got financial worries. They've got no other issue. And and it's rare, but for whatever reason, they're not in until they are in. And there's always that last minute second, I suppose like someone getting married, they could always do a runner last minute. And then there's also, again, if you're not doing your job properly, which is when I used to, the one side of not being involved in fulfillment, if you're involved in deal making and you're not involved in the fulfillment, or you've got to hand it off to someone, is that definite, that real, obviously, thing of buyer's remorse. If in that literally in that morning after scenario, if there's one, and I mean like it could be like an email bounced, or they don't hear back from you in an hour, and then brains start to go, oh, is this the right decision? Or
they start hallucinating.
That is a real thing, and in terms of that, because when I wasn't involved in that, my thing was so dialed in, and then I had to hand it off in terms of just the next, like just the transition. And if someone dropped the ball slightly there, that would impact me, and that's just such a waste for everyone involved because you can't get that back.
The handover is so crucial.
Yeah, you can't get that back.
Crucial.
You can't say, "Oh, can I have another chance to make that first impression?"
Yeah, no.
Basically, I've been saying, "No, this is what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen," and then someone just doesn't check their email or doesn't do this, and then it just, before you know it, they're like, "Actually, I'm going to leave it. I've changed my mind," and you're like, "What?" And that's something else. Like I give that grace period. So usually, again, that was a slightly different scenario. It would be, within 24 hours, there's a bit of a grace period in case someone wakes up in a cold sweat and like, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. Yeah. Nowadays, I usually, I say to someone, let's speak tomorrow, or like, even if they're like, yeah, I'm like, well, I'm going to be working with you likely for 6 months to a year. So, this isn't like, let's just have a sleep with it.
Yep.
Wake up tomorrow. I'll touch base with you tomorrow. And that's it. And that's for me. Everyone finds their own sort of what they're comfortable and fits with them. Because I could close someone that day, that evening, but then there's that chance that someone wake up the next day and be like, oh, I felt rushed, or that was the wrong decision. Whereas I will put timelines, and I will put whether you want to call it pressure or urgency on a decision that's slightly different. I will not pressure someone to work with me, but I will put some kind of framework on the decision, because that's the other thing. It's the maybes that, they don't help anyone involved.
No,
and that's
I always talk about that.
Mate, I will be, and I love that approach. I'll be upfront and ruthless in terms of, look, how's a maybe going to help you? Like, a no helps you. A no helps me. A yes helps you. But if it's a no, let's not usually maybes are basically, and I feel I can say this more when I'm speaking to Australian, maybes are usually just a no without the balls to say it. And now, I can sniff that a mile off as well. And I'm just like, come on. If someone says to me, maybe I'll come back to you in a few months, I'm like, come on, let's just call this what it is. Let's not waste each other's time.
Yeah, I love that. That's so good. Yeah, maybe's the worst answer in the world. Definitely.
Man, how far does maybe get you? Yeah, because then they're still thinking about me a month later, and I'm like, I don't want you to do that.
No.
Like, what a waste of your time, and that's not going to help you. If it's a no, brilliant. What's your other option? Like, I'll recommend you to anyone. Like, what's going to help you out?
Yeah, I love that. That's such a good philosophy. Yeah, there's a stack in there, definitely. I think that everyone listening to that's going to relate for sure. So 3 books that you recommend the most, and obviously, one of them I can see in the background on one of the bar stools there.
That's a bit too far out. I know we're not doing cameras here. Just in case that's not too close. So I will go with, I think, first one, I always have to mention it. Little book, but Man's Search for Meaning. Viktor Frankl. Yes. Yeah. I mean, talking about packing a punch, and I think it's about 160 pages. Where is it? It's around here on my shelf somewhere.
I got it. I got it lurking around behiin me somewhere too.
Yeah, it's only a little one, but don't let that fool you, man. If you ever lose perspective, so good, and I mean, probably at any stage of your life. It's a really, really good book. I mentioned it in my book. I talk about it. I quote him. It's, for those who aren't familiar, he was, he was basically a psychologist, and he got caught up in obviously the Nazi death camps, survived or lived through that, and obviously his experiences, and just, how people react and deal with, literally when they've got everything stripped away from them. They got, all they've got is their own choices and how they approach things in, the worst scenario ever. And we talked about, there's always someone in a worse off perspective. Well, you try and be upset about your hurt knee when you read that book.
Yeah.
It's just like, man. And to be fair, almost anything, unless you're very, very unfortunate, it's just, and even if you are very, very unfortunate, I still think there's a huge amount to get from this book, just in his approach to how you deal with adversity. And
it's a ripper, absolutely timeless.
So that was the first one. So that was obviously written a long time ago.
Yep.
And looking down my shelf, another one I love, The 50th Law.
Yep.
Robert Greene and 50 Cent. Again,
I've read that.
I love it. Yeah. Love it. I'll grab it because we're not doing video much, but I don't go for, I have his 2, 48 Laws of Power, Mastery. They're massive. And then next to it is like the little brother, the 50th Cent, more like 200 pages. His other like more well-known books are like 400 or 500 pages.
Yeah.
It's all about, and my next book that I'm currently writing is all about fear. And I wrote one chapter in Awaken Your Alpha. Mm-hmm. And if I'm going back to all these different chapters and what I'm always asking people about, I'm very interested in it. It's I call it the number one destructive emotion is fear.
Mate, I know there's a guy you need to talk to. I'll introduce you to him. His name's Mark Matthews, and he charges massive waves, and his nickname. I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, but his nickname's Chalky. because he keeps breaking things. Like he's destroyed his leg. Then he went back and went back to this place called Shipsterns. Like do a Google search on YouTube for Shipsterns.
Yes.
Shipsterns Mark Matthews. And so he keeps messing himself up, but he goes through the rehab and he gets himself right again.
I'd love
he goes back and surfs these waves. I'll introduce you to him. You need to have him.
Yes, please.
If you're writing a book on fear, he needs to be in there. And he's
because I was chasing Lard Hamilton, the big wave surfer.
Yep.
So I was thinking, anyway, but I like this one because this guy has obviously got injured, and that makes you obviously that's scarier to keep doing it.
He not only got seriously injured, he got himself good again, then went back and then broke his other ankle. Like he's a mate of my brother's, and he was actually a client of mine. I helped him because he does keynote speeches for corporates around.
Oh, I'd love to speak to him because I'm moving further and further down that line as well. So I'd love to. That sounds awesome. But
mate, I'll introduce you to him. He's
so that's probably one of the reasons why I really like. I'm a big fan of Robert Greene as an author. I interviewed him on the show, and he's in the book as well. But the 50th Law is a whole book about fear and the approach to fear, and basically someone like 50 Cent who's got shot 9 times and in the face and stuff like that, and he's just a fearless dude, not in a I'm mental and going to run off, jump off cliffs for no reason type stuff, but just he just after he's been through that a bit like going through any serious adversity, he's just like after that, unless you're going to shoot him, he's kind of like whatever, he just cracks on. So I like, and they're just the stories in that. I love that. So that's 2 books, and then my one doesn't really count, but my book is very good. John's in it, so
worth getting. Waking Your Alpha.
Yeah. So I love in a different way. I mean, there's so many books I could.
Mate, those 3 are awesome. I mean, if you were to get those 3, you'd be in pretty good shape.
You'd be set. But honourable mention to something like The Slight Edge, The War of Art, and
I love The War of Art. I just picked it up again the other day.
Oh man, love that book. I if anyone's struggling with like anything creative, just get your head around that.
So good.
Yeah, and The Daily Stoic is another one that I think.
I got that
straight
too.
and narrow. I love that. I read that solidly for a year because it's spread over like a whole year if you kind of stick to it loosely. And I even rolled straight onto this next year. It lost its potency a little bit second time round, but I'm still like dropping in and out of it as and when I feel like it. But no, great book. I'm a big fan of the Stoics. The Awaken Your Alpha has got a very stoic vibe through it. That's going to continue into the next book. I love that stuff.
Brilliant. Cool, mate. So we better wrap up, but how do people get in contact with you? So, you've obviously Awaken Your Alpha. I'm sure that there would be a website so they could do a search. They could do a search for that and a whole bunch of stuff that come up.
Yeah. I think good way to kind of get a vibe for like anything I'm doing is if you search Adam Lewis Walker, Awaken Your Alpha, probably one of the first things I find is my TEDx talk, which is Awaken Your Alpha as well.
Yep.
So then that, in 3 minutes, obviously this talk's longer than that, but in 3 minutes you get an understanding of really what Awaken Your Alpha is and if that resonates with you or not. And then if you like that, you'll love the book, get the book, and then obviously the podcast. The book is, though, the best of the best. That's why JB's on there. And that was, the podcast since 2014. And, so the TEDx was 2016. The book was best-selling book 2018. And then the Talk Accelerator, if you're interested in how to get your own TEDx talk, I have the Talk Accelerator podcast, completely free to listen in, get a lot of insight there. And then I offer idea clarity calls every Thursday. Again, complimentary if we want to talk about deal making in terms of offering value first. People come out of that and stand alone. That is, 20 minutes very well spent. They're, really buzzing usually after that. Again, win, lose or draw if you want to look at that. But again, I come in it with that. I don't make offers to everyone, but if it's a fit, I do. And I'm looking for a decision. And
cool.
Either way, it works really well. So again, find out what
a clarity call. How would they organise that? Is there a website?
Yeah. So so from the podcast, there's the only call to action. I don't have any sponsors. Is just if you're interested, bounce your ideas off me. And so talkaccelerator.com. You go there, and then there's a green button to book in. If you listen to the podcast, but Instagram's always a good one as well. Adam Lewis Walker, and then everything kind of comes from there. But please do, if you heard me on John's or connect with me in any way, shape, or form. I'm probably forgetting a few things, but yeah. I write for Podcast Magazine. I know we were talking about that. Your podcast, it comes under business though, doesn't it? Because I'm category director for education. Yeah.
Yep.
So, but yeah. But I mean, we covered everything, but I'm just trying to remember. We didn't mention about that time I was kind of an interesting situation with in a deal where I didn't think it was coming in.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like this guy was wasting my time to a certain extent. I don't know if it was like maybe it was in England, so it must have been at least 5 years ago.
Uh-huh.
But he couldn't answer a question. He was like a politician. Like I would ask him a straight question, and it might have been like, I could say like, what colour's your hair? And I would just get like 10-minute ramble, and but still not answer the question.
Nah.
So it got to the point, and it was little things like, but he just wouldn't answer a question.
Nah.
And so it's got to a point where I was like, and it like specific, I could be something like rate yourself out of 10,
mm-hmm.
like on whatever it was, like on satisfaction with this, or your whatever we was talking about at the time. And he couldn't give me a number, but he wouldn't even acknowledge that he couldn't give me a number. He would just try and talk his way out of it. And he must have been doing this for years or something like that, because people would probably, I think if you wasn't my mindset, you would have just given up, or you would have just been like, oh my God, just let him go and just don't ask again. So it'd go for like 5 minutes and I'd say, so what number is it? And it'd go again. And eventually, and it may have been something, or just a yes and no answer. So I'd be like, is that a yes then? Or is that a no? And then eventually my wife was downstairs and she laughed when I came down, because she said at one point she heard me. I was just like, answer the question. Yeah. I'm not joking. I'm not joking. And this would have probably been for like 15, something like eventually for grand. And I just stood my ground, not in a bad way, but in like literally, I wasn't thinking about, I thought there's no chances. This guy's a nightmare. But I was like, just answer the question. And I literally I shouldn't have shouted, but I did. It is what it is. Because he just was not hearing me or something. And eventually, I don't know if we got through it as a really productive, because again, I don't want to be disrespectful to someone, to send him off. Yeah, send him off that I haven't, been honest enough with him to call him out, mate, you haven't answered my question in the slightest. I've asked you 10 times. So eventually he answered the question. I had a little breakthrough, and he gets on board eventually. And I'm just like, I did not see that coming. But I think eventually my wife, I think what it was basically, I don't think anyone had not stood up to him, but had called him out on his BS basically.
Yeah.
And so I think eventually he's like, I like that. That's actually going to be productive. We're going to crack on and do something, because you're not going to put up with my rubbish, basically. So I don't know.
Love it.
Funny though. Anyway.
Love it. Well, mate, on that note, we might wrap it up. But, mate, it's been a pleasure to both connect and obviously to, find out more about what you're up to over there. Always a pleasure.
No, I won't shout at anyone if they. But that's my story. Everyone's got a story, but it was hilarious. But
absolutely.
Yeah. So, and the Awaken Your Alpha. By the time this comes up, probably the big news on that front, because you've known that for followed that journey for. That is 6 years old. 400 episodes in 2 weeks' time as we're recording this, and that is becoming the Awaken Your Alpha podcast network. So that involves a lot, but it's going larger, I should say. So big developments there.
Brilliant. All right, mate. Well, thanks again. And, mate, we'll no doubt catch you soon.
Oh, definitely. Cheers.
You've been listening to Master Dealmaker's Secrets with John Blake. Subscribe to get more in-depth strategies to maximize your sales process with new episodes every week. And double your inquiry to sale conversion with the lead flow you already have. Go to johnblakeaudio.com for his exclusive free no-fluff audio training and companion PDF guide.